Alright folks, it's Kaz here from Kingdom Adventure doing a little commentary on my speed paint video that I posted up a wee while ago. I actually posted up one, I had to take it down due to sort of audio issues, so I put one up with no audio, and people were asking me a lot of questions about what paints I used and so on and so forth, so I'm just going to talk you through it a bit. Right now I'm just applying a layer, I think it's Mechrite Red via the airbrush. People have been asking me what kind of airbrush I use. It's a very standard airbrush compressor. You can get them on eBay for roughly £90. It's absolutely perfect for what you can do. As long as you've got something that you can adjust the PSI, that's the most important thing. Other than that, airbrushes kind of they're much like the same. This part is just a little bit of blood red, just to highlight some of the gorier aspects of the dragon. Here it goes a little bit out of focus because I keep moving it out of the depth of field. The camera that Tom uses, Tom Russell, he does all my videos, or will be doing my videos, and does all my pictures for my miniatures as well, and he's fantastic. And he's got this amazing camera, and then you'll see later on in the video it does some amazing things. But I have this problem, I keep moving it in and out of the depth of field because it's so small, because the amount of detail we're actually having to get on it. Yeah, this is just me here doing the dark flesh coat. Now, if you've seen my zombie tutorial, I wanted to capture that technique that I used that and kind of upscale it for this because, excuse me, I didn't want to spend too much time on it. I wanted to get it on the table and get it part of the army, so this is very much sort of tabletop standard, but I wanted to capture that technique that I use. So this is just applying the skeleton bone spray from Army Painter, and just making sure to get the light sources and just catching any bits that are a bit too dark. It's a really cool technique when you see it all sort of time lapse like this. Now this is the Ogryn Flesh Wash section. Basically just a case of going around all the flesh. Obviously you're going to get a very sort of human coloured flesh, but that didn't really bother me. I just wanted it to sort of match the army. I wanted it to look sort of homogenic with the army, but I wanted it to stand out at the same time, so I wanted to spend a little bit more time on it than I would otherwise. So again, I'm just applying Ogryn flesh all the way around the flesh parts. Make it seem it's like sort of made up from not just the skeleton of a dragon, but maybe bits of zombie as well. And this necromancer's just kind of hacked it together with whatever he had lying around. Yeah, this section's a little bit longer than I intended it to be. Later on in the video I start just showing you what I'm doing, and then I'll skip to the next bit because you don't really need to see me paint the whole thing. Again, this is sort of like a tutorial from me as well, at the same time just trying to make sure that I'm showing everything that's interesting and keeping the boring bits that you kind of see already, or you've seen already in the video, to a minimum. Again, fixing issues like moving it in and out of the camera frame, etc. Just doing the wings. The Ogryn flesh, I'm applying it quite liberally, getting it all on there, make sure that we're getting that depth that you get from the shadow from it going in all the recesses, etc. On the heavier side towards the shadow, of course, because you want to make sure that your highlights remain true, so you don't want to cover up too much of what the spray can has done. It makes a lot of sense just to keep going over those shadows multiple times to get a layering effect going. Now we're just doing the muscles and all the little bits exposed flesh, etc. This I go over just on a ball red. Excuse me. Later on, I'll go over that in the Tamiya Clear Blood, that was part of one of my videos, my other videos, which is fantastic. This one I do go a little bit overboard with it, but I think it works just to the point where you want to make sure that you get the variant texture, because as you can see it's not too different from the Ogryn flesh, it's just a little bit pinkier, and that's not really what you want. You want it to stand out a little bit more than that. So a lot of the times when I'm restricted with a colour palette, as I am with this, with this colour scheme, it's mainly just one or two colours that are prominent. So when you've got something that's, you want to sort of at least show 3 different colours. People usually say 3 or 4 different colours, and then you've got yourself a nice sort of, an easy palette to look at. When it comes to something like this, I tend to go with different textures instead. So it'll be a case of, right, okay, we've got these 2 very similar colours, but if I do one glossy, or if I do one rusty, or if I do one covered in blood, or whatever, just a different texture or a different way of making it stand out compared to the other similar one. What I'm doing here is this dark flesh again, just on all the sort of cartilagey bits, I suppose. I wanted them to look a little bit gory, so he's got all these bits of exposed flesh. I'm taking a little bit of that dark flesh now here, really watered down, and applying it just along the edges of the wings. I wanted a little bit more of a little bit less of a smooth transition between the sort of bone and the part of the wing. I wanted the clear indication that those were different materials, if you were. So I'm just highlighting that now. Again, this is one of these things where I didn't know if I would do the other side or not. I put the other side in. I'm just fussing with it now. Excuse me. Here we go again on the other side. You can actually quite see in that shot, the difference in colour. You can see the red, the Mechorite red, and the dark flesh up underneath in the shadows. The dark flesh was quite a big sort of coat. I wasn't using a light source or anything like that for that. It was just a case of get it covered. But any parts that I'd missed would be this red coming through. So it's quite nice. Here's the frantic dry brushing of or application of weathering powders. This is the dark earth, I believe. I was going to use light earth as well, but the miniature itself is almost identical to the colour of light earth, so I didn't think it would be worth it. So I'm basically just kind of slapdash this weathering powder on wherever I think it should be. I didn't want it to look too sort of fresh, so this dulls everything down, so then I can go over it again and line it up with highlights. So it's just a case of covering the shadows, making sure you're covering bits that you want to be dirty. Particularly the face, because what this dark earth is doing is providing me with a shadow, rather than going around and painting all the shadows. I could sit and paint all the shadows, but this would be a 4-hour video, and sometimes you don't want that. You want very much for it to be tabletop standard. That was the intention in the first place. It was more of a step up of the original technique that I used to paint my zombies. So yeah, just back to detailing. This is just the little metal parts. I actually made a bit of a mistake here. I should have done this first and then did the weathering powders after that, because then the metal would get the same sort of rusty, kind of dirty effect, and then I could dry brush over the top of it and make it look really good. That's usually the way I do metal, is I do the flat metal colour, maybe with a wash, then do the weathering powders, and then dry brush the original metal colour again over the top. It makes it look like old metal. It's good. It's just a case of highlighting up the focus features of the miniature. So some people were saying it was like, oh, you didn't paint the feet, you didn't do any of that stuff. Well, no, I didn't do that deliberately, due to the fact you don't want to do too much detail everywhere on the miniature. You want to pick a focus point. You want to pick a point where you want the observer to look, and you want to make that as good as you possibly can. In this case, it's the face and the neck. So if you do that, then that means that that's where the eye is going to be drawn to all the time. Since this isn't for a painting competition or anything like that, it's purely to do exactly what it is, and that's to be the centerpiece of my army. And I don't want them looking at the feet of this dragon. I want them to look at the main part of this dragon, which is the wings and the head in particular, because that's what gives it its sort of eerie personality. You want to draw as much attention to the best part of the miniature as possible, and in my opinion it should be, it's usually the face, with exception to some other miniatures you get out there. You could do banners, and stuff like that. A lot of people prefer to draw focus towards them by doing a lot of freehand work and things like that. It's the same idea. The technique I'm using here is simply layering very thin paint in layers over and over again. As you see, I'm going over the same part over and over again. As you're doing that, your paint on your palette will kind of dry and thicken up a little bit, which is good, because then you're starting from a very thin medium, going up to a thicker medium, so you can do the highlights. Highlights on the end of these rib cage spine thing. Touching up on these parts here. I was dead excited to get started on this mini. It's one of the best minis I've seen come out of GW in a long time, and it's really, well, with the exception of some of the Dreadfleet stuff. And the fun part, the Tamiya Clear Blood. This is what motivates you to finish this miniature. You do this last, and you look forward to this bit the most, and as a result, you get done dead quick. I'm just merely decorating now. It's just finding bits where I think it would be cool to have this Tamiya Clear, and also it helps separate sections and stuff. This bit, I know a lot of people are going to tell me, why didn't you do that bit first? Because I loathe not painting a fully built miniature. It's just one of these things where I prefer to get an idea of where the shadows are and where the highlights are going to go, and using the spray technique, it really needs to all be built. Plus it's blood, you can make a mess with this. This is armour wash, by the way, just over I think it's Astronomical Grey or Adeptus Battle Grey, the dark one. Do an armour wash and then wait for that to dry, and then a dry brush of the lighter Astronomical Grey afterwards. And then it was all flocked, just like the finale here, using straw and dark sand. And there he is. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I'll catch you later.